Yeah, g'day, I'm Peter Bender from Bundaberg Commercial, and you've joined my channel where I talk about helping people to buy and sell commercial properties and businesses. Now today we're going to do quite an exciting one. We're going to talk about a recent sale of a laundromat. Now laundromats are hot ticket items. Laundromats and online businesses, probably for the last 2 years, have been the hottest items on the market. And one of the things that makes this sale very different was the actual sales process. We didn't do a normal chuck an ad out there, take care of 6,000 customer inquiries and then make the sale. We actually did this off market. So that's one of the main reasons why I want to talk about the business. So it's a popular industry and it has a unique way that we actually made the sale. And hoping that the lessons that you'll pick up through here can be transferable to pretty well any application that you look for. All right, let's talk about the actual business. So this is located in Hervey Bay, which is one of the regional areas of Australia. And the business itself is awesome. Not just because I'm the real estate agent, but it actually is awesome. There are only 2 laundromats in that town. This one was previously across the road as a small venture, and the current owners had bought it about 3 years ago, moved it to a bigger premises, put in a whole new range of top of the line laundromats, washing machines and dryers, organised, put gas through as a supply line. Part of their renovations also included putting a lounge area, and I'm talking comfy lounges here, better than what I got at my place. And they really looked at doing upmarket. They were perfectly located in the part of town that was near the caravan parks, near the university. It was a business where the revenue has been dramatically increasing quite a lot for the last couple of years. It even looked like it was going to be doubling this year from last year, which is absurd, but it just goes to show that the increased popularity in laundromats. So why are laundromats suddenly so popular? It's not the traditional markets that are looking at it, as in the singles who don't know how to use a laundromat. It's more the other scale. It's the mums who have got 4+ kids, because you just can't get a washing machine big enough to keep the cherubs in clean clothes, school uniforms, sport uniforms, play clothes, jammies, sheets, towels, everything like that. So a lot of the larger families are now going to laundromats and using the facilities there. They'll go read a book or they'll go do some shopping and come back and pick it all up. Now this laundromat had everything. They're looking at, they had the security cameras, they had vending machines, they're in a really good part of town, plenty of parking around. There's lots going well for this. So when you've got such a hot property in a hot industry, and to give you an idea of how hot the industry is, the previous laundromat I had for sale, I had about 300 inquiries. I was getting several inquiries every day. Most of them were, God bless their souls, their accountant has told them, oh, go get a laundromat, it's good money. No idea what they were doing, hadn't got financed, didn't know one end of a barge pole from the other end in regards to business. Passive income is all they could say, and that always scares me because people don't understand that even passive income business needs to have involvement. Now this business was fairly well self-sustaining. It had security guards open and close the door. The owners themselves probably went in once or twice a day, a couple of days a week, to look after the machines and do the maintenance and cleaning. There was also a casual person who took care of things while they weren't there, did a couple of hours shifts every now and then, take care of customer inquiries, but mainly in regards to maintenance. The machines were the high quality American Dexter units, and they had both cash and card facilities. Very rare. So you're starting to get a feel that this is a blue chip investment. Now, when I was speaking with the clients, the sellers initially, one of the things they were a little bit concerned about is they didn't want everybody in town knowing they were having the business for sale. And I explained that I had a lot of active buyers on my list. So I said, look, probably scary words for a real estate agent to say, but trust me, I'm happy to do this as what's called an expression of interest. So we don't put a price on the business. We basically just go out to all the buyers I know and say, look, here's the figures, here's the equipment, here's the location, here's the details of the business. You've got 14 days to come up with a price and come back to us if you're interested. Now that is a traditional expression of interest. Now let's recognize that you see expressions of interest very regularly on commercial, or not so much commercial, but on real estate. The problem with that is sometimes it's because people don't know how to value a business, or they're just looking for something different, and it's more a novelty. But this is actually a strategic selling tool on this one. We had plenty of buyers, and they'd already been vetted, so we know which ones had cash and which ones had pre-approved finance, and we know that it was a business that has a lot of demand. So how did we come up with an idea on what the business is worth? In this particular instance, because it was only the business and not the building, we looked at the replacement costs of assets. Now, they had a lot of machinery been bought in 3 batches and increasingly bigger ones. So once again, one of the things that differentiated this laundromat was the machines were solid American ones. They were new. They were both card and coin, and they'd put in expansions twice in the premises. So they've all had depreciation schedules, which from a tax point of view is a benefit to the buyer, which is another component that they have to factor into their pricing model. And we were able to work out what the depreciation was. So we had a rough idea on what the replacement cost is on the machinery. Now, the other pricing model that we use is you have to factor in the goodwill of the business. Now, there's a few ways of pricing a business, but one of the things, for argument's sake, down south in Melbourne, one of the common aspects is they have a multiple of revenue. So not multiple of profit, they actually have a multiple of revenue, and they may say, put in a 5 times multiple of the revenue. So if your revenue was $1 million a year, let's say your business is worth $5 million a year. But the downside is they don't care about the equipment, because as far as they're concerned, the equipment is just a function of producing the revenue. So that's one way of doing it. For some reason it's just strong down there. I think probably because they have a lot of manufacturing segments, so equipment is a little bit hard to factor in. More common, you will have a multiple of the net profit, and that multiple can be all over the place. Now, we had a feeling that a multiple of 3 would apply here. So what does that mean? So if the business made $100,000 net profit, so that's after all the expenses, and we take out factors like depreciation and owner's wages, we're looking at pure profit. If that came in at $100,000 after all the add backs, as it's called, well, then you'd be looking at $300,000 as what the value of the cash flow for the business is. Now, in the regional area that we have, 3 is premium price. And I was confident that we would get that because it was a really good business, really good area, a really good equipment. There's just a real lot of good stuff that we're going for it. But by putting it out for an expression of interest, I was sweating. So the first couple of offers that came in were very quick, and there were opportunists. And that's fine. I don't mind people doing that. They're interstate investors. They're looking at $250,000 cash, 7-day settlement. Another one was $350,000 cash. And I have to be honest, I was starting to sweat. I thought, well, the business isn't worth that one, but I just did start to worry if my methodology may have been a little bit off the mark. Then we started picking up some serious ones around the $500,000 mark, people having a decent look. And one of the things that was different in this one, the owner had a buyer in their back pocket, someone who'd put in an offer of over the $700,000 mark. And the invitation to me was, well, they will go with that one and not pay commission if I can't get them something better. And in the discussions, I said, look, I really think you're over the $800,000. You're somewhere between $8 to $850. In the end, that is the price that we got. So the owners were happy because they were able to get a good price. And as it turned out, their buyer in their back pocket couldn't get finance and collapsed. So they were really happy that I'd done all the work to run with it. Now, this was also complicated by the fact that it was just done before Christmas. So I think we actually had the end of expression of interest period, the 14 days that they can work on, to finish, I think, on Christmas Eve at midday. So I had time to go home and do some shopping before Christmas. So I put a lot of pressure on there. And it was by invitation only. So everybody on my database who had previously looked and was serious and had finance or had pre-approved finance or cash were emailed with a confidentiality agreement. Those who signed it and sent it back were then given financials for the business and full details on the business and a form to fill out, basically, which outlined the terms and conditions they wanted. And some people needed short settlements, some people wanted to have a few conditions, but it was a simple business. So mainly it was a price and time. Time is the aspect for the main area of this sale as well. We had a little bit of argy-bargy, and in this as in negotiations. Now, when you do an expression of interest, usually it's the highest price that gets it. But sometimes it may be different depending on what the conditions are. And one of the main conditions, if it's cash versus finance, sometimes you may go with the cash one because there's more certainty about it. If it's a short settlement, you may take a slightly lower price. In this aspect, it was basically the highest price got it. There was a couple of bids over the $800,000 mark, which made me smile. It's nice to know that the way I value a business is accurate to the market, because it makes life difficult if it isn't either high or low, but it is complex. And it was great. It was an investor from down south, not too far down south, but in southeast Queensland, looking to expand northwards. The business is now handed over. It was successfully settled. Now, we had a lot of challenges, and one of the unique things that came in this situation was I got the call and saying, "Peter, the lawyers are arguing. They're shouting at each other. Can you help us out?" Now, I usually don't get between my clients and their advisors, be they lawyers, be they accountants, be they bankers. But obviously in this instance, I needed to get involved. And it was a challenge. I won't explain what the issues were, but we managed to sort things out. There's a few phone calls and a few explanations, and suddenly a couple of aha moments. Like, oh, I understand that better now. And that's where the relationships and work comes in for commercial real estate. As I tell people, most of my work actually comes in after I've signed the contracts. So we had the solicitors all sorted out and contracts in place. And then we had a twist in the tail. We had the issues with the landlord. Now, commercial contracts for businesses, the way they normally work out is the contract is settled and there's a separate contract between the buyer and the landlord. So it's like, and whilst they're sort of connected from a contract point of view, they are two separate entities. In this instance, look, the landlord had the tenant had good terms because the landlord signed the lease when they had COVID. Now, essentially by law, I'm not telling too much stories out, essentially by law, when you take over a business, you have what's called a lease assignment. So essentially the tenant's name goes off, the seller's name goes off, and inserted in its place is the buyer's name. And all the conditions and rates and everything stays in place. Now, the landlord further complicated things in that they had the property for sale. So it's in their interest to have as much rent as possible because that helps to bolster their price. So suddenly you put all that into a mix and the landlord was thinking, I can probably up the rent a little bit here and get away with it. And it was almost extortion. And that did not go down well with the buyer or the seller or the solicitors involved. In the end, it was all sorted out. We were very lucky that, sometimes you need to be firm on the important things, and sometimes you need to be flexible. So there's a bit of flexibility and firmness displayed by all parties. And at the end, it got home and it got settled. Actually, even settlement was interesting. It was due to settle on the Thursday, and I think it really didn't finish until the following Wednesday. And one of the things that happens is quite often there's extensions. So there's formal extensions and there's what I would call informal extensions. So a formal extension may be when you're looking to get finance and the bank realises it's slow and it's going to need more time to process the application. And the buyer's solicitor will send a letter to the seller's solicitor and say, look, the bank needs another week or two, can we extend settlement? And they just push the calendar forward. On settlement date, look, I've had them, have to be pushed out because the bank had one. I'm sorry, it was a Commonwealth Bank. Yeah, name and shame. They lost the paperwork on settlement day. So we all had to sit and wait another week while they went and recreated it and found it all. I mean, really? In the modern age, you can't find the paperwork? There's not electronic copies? But yeah, it wasn't in this case, but I've had one like that. So anyone who says that when a contract is unconditional, you're home and hosed, tell them to go talk to Peter. I can tell you a mountain of contracts where it didn't happen. And this is one of those cases. Now, it turned out the issue was with the landlord, and they needed more time to sort out the contracts. And that was eventually taken care of. So settlement went on settlement day, but the paperwork was all organised. So there's no formal request for settlement here. It was just quickly worked in the background by the 3 sets of solicitors to make it all happen. And yeah, whilst the buyer and seller were uncomfortable, the key is to let them each know what is happening and the progress on it, how long it's expected, and to let them know, look, nothing moves fast in commercial, as I tell people. At the end of the day, it was a fabulous result. So fabulous that I'm actually being taken out for dinner for this. I thought, wow, this customer is wrapped and happy. I love it when I've got happy customers. And yeah, that's great. So if you like this video and you're a happy customer, leave me a comment, smash the subscribe button, and I'm happy to help you understand the intricacies of what really happens in commercial real estate. All right, take care and God bless.